Another wonderful day in our fair city of Nashville, Tennessee. And I have a question for Willie, Derek, Connor, and all of you at 615-737-1025. Have you ever dreamed of being an offensive coordinator in a college football game or an NFL game, but in this specific instance, a college football game? Have you ever had that dream?
Not a dream, but yeah, I would love to do it.
Well, you now have an opportunity because this story went viral yesterday. I'm reading directly from ESPN.com. Quote, in the ever-evolving age of college football, every day brings something new. Akron, the Zips. Akron is the latest to test the waters of the sport with a fan promotion unlike any other. One season ticket holder can be the quote-unquote offensive coordinator of the game. The winner will step the open drive of Akron opener against Robert Morris on September 12th. We're not talking about, hey, you can dial the first play. The opening drive, the whole opening drive for the Akron Zips in their home opener against Robert Morris on September 12th. So if you've ever wanted to call plays in an actual college football game, I would buy Zips season tickets. That would be my suggestion.
So tell me how this works.
$75. That's how it works.
You get to sit in the booth and do this, or do you submit the plays and they go by the script? Like,
according to ESPN.com, head coach Joe Moorhead will work directly with the contest winner to help design the plays for better or for worse. That's the ESPN.com story.
Well, what probably more than likely what will happen is, throughout the week, the fan will come in. And then on, which would be Thursday because they play Saturday. Thursday, the fan will come in, probably give them a certain amount of plays and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm thinking, show them. And then you kind of orchestrate what is going to be ran, what we call the first 15. Your first 15 plays based on what the coach think they're going to play from a defensive standpoint. And then after that, you just, you sit back and you watch it. And, see if those plays that you and coach agreed upon, he's going to run. So as a coach, I know you just wish it's like either it's one play touchdown or it's 3 plays and out.
Now, here's one question. If you, the lucky season ticket holder, you design an opening drive that leads to a touchdown, I think you should be able to keep going.
If you make it, take it.
Precisely. If you are the lucky winner and you script an opening drive touchdown, you get to do it again.
And if they score 30 or more, you come back next week.
They're gonna want you back next week. Everybody will.
That's what I'm thinking. This is my in as Coach Willie.
Now, what plays would you dial up, Willie Donick?
I got to know the personnel. I got to know the Zips. I got to start studying the Zips.
The Zips averaged 353.5 yards per game last season, 5th best in the MAC.
All right.
They can put up some yardage.
Some action.
You got to send it all go.
Points.
Set the tempo.
Yeah, you got to go with it all go. You got to go with it all.
Just lob it.
But I think this is I think this is genius by their marketing team. Just another way to, one, obviously get, funds, but also, allow your fan base to be more in tune with the team. I'm not sure if any, SEC team or Big Ten team or ACC team or Big 12 team has done this, the Power 4. But I think but I do think this is a way where, like, programs are trying to figure out how do we get more money. I think this would be an excellent way to get, just think, if you give me $100,000, you can call the first series, whether it's 3 and out or if it's a touchdown, the first series of a game, of said game. It wouldn't be the biggest game, but said game. You know how many people would be trying to, be in that position to be able to do that? They will pay 6 figures.
Yeah.
So
we'll see if that trends.
Yeah.
They seem that they're going to be confident that they will beat Robert Morris, whether they have a disaster on the first series or not. You have to be prepared for that, right? If you're going to do this, the coach can't get ticked off if they throw an interception on the first pass.
Okay. How does Robert Morris feel about this?
If you're the head coach of Robert Morris,
bulletin board material.
Exactly.
Oh, they're having Joe Schmo come out of the stands and call plays. That's how much they disrespect you.
Absolutely, man.
You're working that.
I hadn't thought of that. So if you're looking for the opportunity of a lifetime, if you want to be the offensive coordinator of the game for the Akron Zips, all you have to do is buy season tickets to the Akron Zips. And as Connor Newton notes, they start at what, $75?
75. If I pay an additional 10, can I get what Willie and I have been talking about the past couple of days and get the Titans bellower to follow me around?
That guy, he will help motivate you.
Yeah.
The bellower.
Like if we settle for a field goal, will he yell out from the stands, "We wanted 7, but we only got 3.
We'll take 3.
We'll take it."
For those that don't know what we're talking about, there was a guy, because the first practice of the Titans where they had the fans out there, they don't let you stand along the rope like they did when you were playing D Mason. They did up until just a couple years ago. But now that they've configured it, there's actually more places for the fans to sit. But there was this huge gentleman, and man, could he project his voice. And there weren't that many fans because they didn't have stands.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, he was chirping on every play, and he had this deep voice. That's why they started calling him the bellowing man. And it was like the great old adages of football. Hold on to the football, just the obvious stuff. And they were working on red zone, and then they brought the kicker out, Joe Nedney or whatever was kicking at the time, and he was making a field goal. He says, "All right, guys, we want 7, but we'll take 3." And you could see like Steve McNair and Blaine Bishop, they were trying not to laugh because you couldn't help but hear this guy. Everyone was like snickering on the sideline.
This text was made for Derek Mason.
Yes.
Our resident conspiracy theorist. One texter on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com. Are y'all concerned about the electrical substation near the 49ers practice facility? And this is important because next week, the Tennessee Titans will travel to the Bay Area for joint practices with the San Francisco 49ers. And if you are an NFL fan of any kind, you've probably heard of the conspiracy theory that this electrical substation that borders the 49ers practice field is the cause of all of these serious injuries that the 49ers have had in recent years. According to CBS.com, the 49ers held their first practice of camp on July 26th. And in the 9 days since then, it's been total carnage. The team had a total of 14 players who missed practice on Monday, which is 15.5% of their 90-man roster. So, should we be concerned about the electrical substation when the Titans go out there next week?
I don't know why you would agree. I am a conspiracy theorist, in my second life. But no, if I'm an owner, why I would think like, man, they've had some injuries over there. And maybe I don't quite believe, maybe I don't quite believe it, but yet and still, I don't want to take a chance. You know what? You bring your team here to Nashville. We can practice with y'all in our, on our practice field. Because I guarantee you that if there's a tweak or anything,
substation,
it will be everywhere.
So earlier this year, the 49ers hired an independent scientist to study the substation and see whether there was anything to the idea that the facility could be contributing to their injuries. It was called a quote-unquote big nothing burger by 49ers GM John Lynch. According to the Niners, the scientist, whose name and affiliation was not made available, and whom the team says has, quote, over 45 years of experience studying electromagnetic fields and their effects, end quote, was given access to the entire facility. He then used, quote, lab-grade equipment to read electromagnetic output and took measurements in any space that players occupy when at the facility. Those readings, according to the 49ers, showed that the facility was 400 times below the threshold of what would be considered an unsafe working environment.
You're always skeptical of the team hiring somebody. Now I will say that Robert Saleh was asked about that at one of the practices, and he just brushed it off. He did not engage. He was like, "Look, you just tell us where to play. We're going to go play." But he was asked specifically about that with the 49ers practices coming up. So he doesn't pay it any attention, because I don't know that it would do you any good to do that. Like, you're going to stress about it. You're going to not show up. Like, what are you going to do?
I just found that very funny. That's like me saying, I have the world-renowned physicist. He wouldn't check this, and he's had 50 years of experience. And Willie say, well, who is he? I can't tell you that. It's like, but why can't you tell me? But either way.
They're going to show up in those high-voltage insulated suits
exactly.
and practice in those just to be safe.
It's like, but if I'm solid, if I did believe there was, some type of link, he can't show it, because then if he says something about it, then now you probably more likely than not, you've enacted someone from the NFLPA when you seem like you have a concern about it as a head coach. Now, me as a player rep, I have to say something, because now the next question is going to be to the player rep when he comes up there. So he has to be really careful on how he answers it, whether he believes it or not. Because if he sits there and say, "Yeah, I'm a little concerned that we're, multiple injuries, my time there," then now us as players are looking, well, why are you taking us there then? If that's the case,
I feel like we need the X-Files music.
Yeah.
While we're discussing.
And it is a fact. The 49ers had ridiculously bad injuries.
Yes.
Yes. It short-circuited their season.
No pun intended. You said short-circuited.
Yes.
That was truly not intended. But, they're not that far off from the Seahawks and the Rams to the two best teams in the NFC. But the 49ers could hang with them. But by the end of the year, they did not have their guys. Like, Kittle was hurt. All these guys, McCaffrey, a bunch of the guys on Saleh's defense.
So to answer your question, Texter, are we concerned? I think Derek is concerned. Sounds like Derek's a little concerned.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it in my back pocket for now. Yes.
If a Titans player suffers an injury at these joint practices, it's going to be bad. It's the substation.
You're going to hear about the substation.
Oh, yes.
Josh from White House says, I've heard about this substation for a few days now. Do you know how long they have practiced there? I don't know the answer to that. I should look that up. But the 49ers have been, for the past several years, I want to say, one of, if not the most injured team in the NFL. So when that happens, you look for any and all reasons, and the substation is a popular conspiracy theory. So we hope that the Titans go out there next week and come home unscathed. But don't hold your breath.
They were 5th last year in adjusted games lost.
Because of injury?
Yes, according to the FTN Almanac here.
Okay. Well,
the Lions were the 2nd.
Yes. Oh, man.
So that took a bite out of them. Washington, big-time injuries last year, including to the quarterback. So obviously it's weighted for the importance of the player. It's the adjusted part.
615-737-1025. If you have concerns about the substation, this is an open forum. You can let us know. The Titans will practice with the 49ers in the Bay Area next week. And we hope that the Titans suffer no ill effects of the substation. But if you're worried about it, you can let us know. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Gentry Estes of the Tennessean will join us at the top of the hour. Clark Lee will join the program at 4:40. Vanderbilt had its first day of fall camp today. We always love catching up with Clark Lee. We will do that at 4:40. Gentry Estes at 4, 615-737-1025. But coming up next, one of my favorite exercises of the NFL season. It came out, I think it was yesterday. Mike Sando of The Athletic unveiled his annual quarterback tiers. Where is Cam Ward on that list? And what does it mean? We will discuss that coming up next. 737-1025. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds. First pitch is at 6:45 p.m. Catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, Maple Street Biscuit Company, and Social Cantina. D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 1025 the game. I feel like I should lower my voice a little bit. D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 102. Willie, you're on DJ duty today.
I am.
What's our theme?
Today we got a little dueling voices, Mariah and Whitney. This is Whitney, obviously. I think it's 1-1A. It is hard to say who's better. I think D-Mace is in the Whitney camp. If I remember.
Definitely.
He's
Definitely.
He is strong Whitney. I lean
Close.
towards I like early Mariah by a nose, but this is I think a fun debate. Like they both when they rip it, I don't know if it gets any better. So We're going to play some songs, but I would love to hear the feedback from the listeners.
Let's wait until it's hell.
Or Prime Whitney versus Prime Mariah. Who's got the best voice?
To answer Josh from White House's question about the electrical substation in Santa Clara, the 49ers have trained in Santa Clara since the late 1980s, with the substation coming in a few years later. The station, which is operated by Silicon Valley Power, expanded in 2014 in conjunction with the opening of Levi Stadium. So there's your answer about how long the substation has been in place. The Titans will practice out there next week. We hope that whatever has been hindering the 49ers does not hinder the Titans when they practice there next week. But I believe it was yesterday, one of my favorite NFL articles of the year came out from Mike Sando of The Athletic, his annual quarterback tiers, how 50 executives and coaches rank 35 veteran quarterbacks. The panel consisted of GMs, assistant GMs, former GMs, head coaches, defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, you name it. And each voter placed 35 veteran quarterbacks into 5 tiers, from best, tier 1, to worst, tier 5. Quarterbacks were then ranked by average vote and placed into tiers. The survey excludes rookies because voters have not seen them play in the NFL. So last year, no.
That's not me. That's the suit's fault.
Oh,
Okay.
good job, Chase.
Perfect.
when you're
Chase.
hiring. Anyway, so when we did this exercise, well, I didn't do this exercise. Mike Sando did this exercise a year ago. Cam Ward was not included because he had not played an NFL game. So I was curious to see where Cam Ward would end up on this list in his first go-round in the quarterbacks tiers. And out of 35 quarterbacks, Cam Ward came in at number 25 out of 35, which places him in tier 3. And there are a lot of tier 3 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the tier 3 quarterbacks in order: Bo Nix, Aaron Rodgers, CJ Stroud, Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck, Tua Tagovailoa, tied at 26, and Kirk Cousins. That is tier 3.
Explain to people what tier 3 is.
Tier 3 is described as a legit starter, but needs better running game or defense to win. Lower volume drop back passing offense suits him best. Those are the parameters of being a tier 3 quarterback.
And it should be noted that within each tier, you can be a lot closer to the next tier, and you can also be close to the next tier down, right? Cam Ward, I would say, would be...
He's closer to tier 4
yes,
than he is to tier 2.
And I would say, so, like, for example,
Mm-hmm.
he's in tier 3. He had 25 tier 3 votes. He had 4 votes for tier 2, but he had almost as many votes for tier 4 that he did for tier 3, 21. So 4 for tier 2, 25 for tier 3, 21 for tier 4. So he's a lot closer to tier 4 than tier 3. I was actually pleasantly surprised he got that much bump. I think probably for potential that he's in tier 3, but I would say he's in a low tier 3.
So some of the anonymous quotes included in the blurb about Cam Ward, they're not anything we haven't heard before. For example, a defensive coach whose team faced Ward last season, quote, "He's a young gunslinger, extremely confident. I think they got to tighten up how he plays the game because he is really like a playground quarterback. I don't know how much he is doing it by the book or how it is designed to do, but he is going to make plays." Another offensive coach says he does not give you confidence that he sees it well and can operate on time when it's not clean. The mark of a quarterback in this league is the pocket is collapsing. You have to anticipate. You have to know what you are looking at and why, and you have to be able to do it in that environment. I didn't see any signs of him being able to do that. Again, when
I think that jumped out at me.
Okay, explain.
Well, I think we see that some.
Yes.
And that is an area that I think you can improve over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at that one thing. Among the things that I'm looking for, that's certainly circled as one, that perspective from an offensive coach. And Adam, I know you're going to make this point. the coaches see him a little different than executives see him.
Yes. Mike Sando writes, voters gave Ward some grace for being in a difficult situation. That was especially true with executives who were higher on Ward than coaches. Only Drake May had a more extreme split in this direction. Ward got all 4 of his tier 2 votes from executives. So why do you think that is? Why do you think there is such a disparity between executives' opinions on Cam Ward and coaches' opinions on Cam Ward?
I'm not sure. Maybe they just see the game totally different than, what a coach sees it. Now, it depends on, of these coaches, how many of them are currently coaching, or are these guys that are just sitting back and watching film?
Well, some of the voters are current coaches. I believe some are former coaches.
Okay, so when you're talking about current coaches, unless I am game planning for him, I'm not paying too much attention to him. And then as a head coach, depending on whether I lean more offensive defense, I'm really not paying that much attention to him. If I'm a heavy offensive guy, I'm not as a head coach paying a lot of attention, because then I got to put together my own game plan to try to combat the defense I'm going against.
To clarify, it appears that all of the coaches polled are current coaches.
Okay, so some may have played Cam Ward, and they decided that based on what they saw, this is what he needs to improve in. I think everything that has been said, good or bad, I think it's true. I think all of the things that some people that may not think Cam's the guy is saying, I think some of it is true. And I think some of the things that are, people are saying that love Cam, I think is true. And then you mesh it all together and you try to figure out, well, what exactly is he going to be after all of that? Because you're right. At times, he didn't seem as if he was seeing it down the field. But then as a guy that's being a supporter of Cam, I would say, well, the offensive line was so bad, he didn't really have time to process it down the field, which both are true in a sense. So that's why I say, what they're saying, everybody's saying, I think it's right. That's why you look at year 2. How does he develop from year 2? Because they're basing it all off of what they've seen in year 1, which, again, everybody's right.
Here's my question. I think that the executives, to answer your question, Adam, are probably going to project big picture more. The coaches are just going to tell you what they see, what they saw last year. Like this is why I really like this poll, because it's unnamed and you can be unfiltered, right? You don't have to worry about getting backlash or being bulletin board material. This is just what they see. So I enjoy the anonymous perspective. I think they have to tighten up how he plays the game. This is a defensive coach whose team faced Ward. They have to tighten up how he plays the game, because he's really like a playground quarterback.
See, but the 2 things can be true. If he tighten it up, he won't be so much of he will not be so much of a playground type of quarterback based on what that defensive coach has said. So
I agree.
I think things, like Willie said, maybe the executive is looking at it, based on what do I project this guy to be moving forward? Whereas as a coach, I don't have time to project what he's going to be. I can tell you what I see right now.
Let me ask you guys this question. When you clicked on this link for the first time and you were scrolling for Cam Ward, where did you think he would end up? Is 25 higher than you anticipated, lower than you anticipated, or around where you thought he would be?
I would say, if anything, it's higher than I anticipated. I thought he would be low 20s and maybe in tier 4. So I think that they see. I was encouraged to some degree, because I think from what we just talked about, the executives think he will grow out of what he was last year. His numbers last year, there's no way around it. He was tier 4 last year, but the potential moves him into tier 3 in a lot of these voters, I think.
Derek, before I get your answer, here are the quarterbacks listed below Cam Ward: Tyler Shuck, Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, Malik Willis, Geno Smith, Deshaun Watson, Michael Penix Jr., Jacoby Brissett, J.J. McCarthy, and Shedeur Sanders. So Cam Ward, 25 out of 35. Derek, when you clicked on this and looked for Cam Ward, Surprised by his placement? Too high, too low, just right?
No, I'm not surprised. I figured he would be somewhere in that range. I think if he was higher than 25, that's where it starts to get, okay, what are they really seeing? But that 25, somewhere around there, 25, 30, I thought that's where he would be for this reason. The second half of the season saved him based on, these tiers. I think had it continued to trend, south, he would have been in tier 4. He would have ended up in tier 4. But because after the firing of the head coach, some changing within offense, he started to tier more so, trending more so toward a guy that looks like he can be a franchise quarterback. So had he not had that second half, even though that second half wasn't great, but it was much better than the first half of the season when everything was a total disaster. So I think ultimately that's like, okay, you got a D in the first half of the class, and then you got a B in the second half. Well, it's going to end up being a C. So that's essentially what got him into tier 3. And he's right around that number where he should be.
I'm looking at the quarterbacks who are sandwiching Cam Ward in this exercise. Again, Mike Sando's quarterback tiers for the Athletic. Cam Ward came in at 25 out of 35 after Sando polled 50 executives and coaches total. Jackson Dart right above him, Tyler Shuck right below him. I'm looking at some of the quarterbacks a couple of spots above. Kyler Murray at 23, Bryce Young at 22, Daniel Jones at 21. CJ Stroud I feel like probably took a huge dip coming in at number 20. But maybe you can make the argument that Cam Ward and Jackson Dart should switch places. You have a larger sample of Cam Ward than Jackson Dart. I know Jackson Dart was impressive with the Giants at times last season. I feel like he probably wouldn't be that much higher in my own rankings if I were doing this. I feel like so I feel like 25 out of 35 feels right for Cam Ward after his rookie season. Go ahead.
But it's crazy because a year ago, Bryce Young was definitely a tier 4.
I will find where
and
Bryce Young was.
He may have been outside of the tier 4. He probably, because it was bad.
Bryce Young was a tier 3 quarterback last year.
He was a tier 3?
Barely.
He improved. He improved by 2 spots. He went from 24 last year to 22 this year.
He was right on the borderline.
Man,
Tier
but
3 and 4 last year, and he was clearly tier 4 2 years ago.
Yeah, they had written him off. He got benched. He
lost the job.
Yeah, he lost the job. He lost the starting job. But then they bring in the right coaches, surrounded with more players, and now he's in a position where he's ascending as a quarterback. Not to say that he's going to ultimately be a tier 1 quarterback, but that's why sometimes you got to give quarterbacks grace, and I don't think we do enough of that these days, because sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer, but teams feel they don't have time to wait. While everybody else is getting better, I can't be standing still.
That I think is the key. That's one thing I try to take away is the flow of some of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bo Nix, as effective as his team was, he's still in tier 3. He's played 2. I mean, obviously he's played 2 years in the league. He improved. He's closer to tier 2 now. But that goes to probably the more important question for the Titans is, where will Cam Ward be in a couple years? And is Nix a guy that's experiencing success now, but maybe has a lower ceiling? That's how I see him right now. Sean Payton knows how to use him, but will Nix ascend to a next level? I don't know. I'm pretty confident that Cam Ward is going to get better, quite a bit better. But how much can he get better? For example, Matthew Stafford, most of his career was not in tier 1. It's only the last couple of years that he's gotten into tier 1. He was clearly tier 2. And sometimes if I'm looking at this right, he was close to tier 3 some of the years. And he's played for a long time. When going back to 2014, he's right on the border of tier 2, tier 3, then pretty solidly in tier 2 for a long time. And in the last 2-3 years, he's gone up into that tier 1 range.
615-737-1025. Mike Sando releases his annual quarterback tiers at The Athletic, polling 50 coaches and executives. Cam Ward makes his debut on this list at number 25 out of 35. He received 4 tier 2 votes, all from executives, 25 tier 3 votes, and 21 tier 4 votes. Your thoughts on Cam Ward's placement on this list? 25 out of 35. 615-737-1025. I do have a question about Cam Ward and where we need to see him on this list a year from now. 615-737-1025. You can keep up with Titans training camp with 1025 The Game for the latest updates, player interviews, and more as you get prepped for the upcoming Titans season. Coverage of Titans training camp is presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants, Parman Tractor and Equipment, and Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. D-Mace, Vingan and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. By the way, be listening, because at some point during the program, we will give you an opportunity to win a 4-pack of tickets to PBR Stampede Days at Bridgestone Arena. The tickets will be for either Friday, August 14th or Sunday, August 16th. So if you want a 4-pack of tickets to PBR Stampede Days at Bridgestone Arena, be listening throughout the program. We are talking about Mike Sando's quarterback tiers at The Athletic, his annual exercise, polling NFL coaches and executives, ranking all of the quarterbacks. 35 quarterbacks were included in the survey this season. Cam Ward makes his quarterbacks tiers debut at number 25. Number 25 out of 35. That puts him squarely in tier 3. 615-737-1025. Let's get to your reaction first. Lenny says, you are grading Cam pretty high for a second half of the season. I gave him a C at best. He only won 2 games. Now, we're not saying that Cam Ward became Patrick Mahomes overnight after the Tennessee Titans bye week. But if you dig into the numbers, which you know me, I tend to do that from time to time, there is clear improvement pre-bye to post-bye. And even his post-bye numbers probably put him at he's average to slightly below average. But compared to where he was at the beginning of the season, the first half of the season, it was definitely better. So I agree with Derek's assessment that Cam Ward salvaged his rookie season by showing improvement and probably led to his placement on the list, number 25 out of 35. Eli says second half of the year, he's more of a low to high 3. First half of the year, he's definitely a 4. Matthew from Jolton says executives see Ward for the high upside. Coaches see the mid to bad fundamentals.
Well, yeah, they're seeing it in real time, and they don't have time to project what he's going to be. Whereas if an exec is looking at it, he's looking at it from a much higher view, and he can see, at least in his mind, the trajectory he can possibly go on based upon what they're seeing. And again, 2 things can be right. He was bad the first half of the season, but he was much better the second half. That shouldn't, if you just want to look at the first half of his season and say he's not going to be a good quarterback, I don't think you're doing him or yourself any justice, because what you want to do is see the totality of it. And I would tend to lean more, I think he's going to be a good quarterback based upon him navigating through what that team was last year and still was able to, play good football. It wasn't winning football, but it was good football.
One executive says, quote, Cam Ward is going to be really, really good, but he's a 3 now. He has confidence. He can throw the ball. He's fearless in a sense, so he's not afraid to make mistakes. It doesn't carry over with him. He has to refine some of his touch and some of his decision-making, but that's all with experience and playing. Now, here's my question for both of you and all of you at 615-737-1025. I was curious to see how much Drake May and Caleb Williams improved year over year, because May and Williams made their debuts in quarterback tiers last year. And I know a lot of Titans fans are hoping and wishing and praying that Cam Ward can have a similar year 2 leap as Drake May and Caleb Williams. So last year, or year over year, Drake May improved by 14 spots. He debuted at 22nd. He's tied for 8th this year. So from 22nd to tied for 8th, 14 spot improvement. Caleb Williams improved by 12 spots. He debuted at 23. He's tied for 11th this year. Again, Cam Ward, 25 in his debut. So May and Williams were in the same realm as Cam Ward when they first appeared on this list a year ago. What kind of leap must Ward make in this exercise when we pull this up again in a year from now in order for us to feel good about where Cam Ward is?
It's a good question. And you, Adam, I can tell, are gravitating towards the rank. I focus more on the tier.
That's fair.
And I would be I would be thrilled out of my mind if he got anywhere close to tier 2. Like I would think, Derek, if he goes from bottom level tier 3, which is where he is, to high level tier 3, knocking on the door, getting more tier 2 votes, that would be a nice jump for me. I'm not quite as focused on how many spots he moves up because some of that's out of his control. Like 5 other quarterbacks could be hurt. There could be a lot of guys who fall in the middle, but I'm curious just where he ranks in the tiers. Does he get more tier 2 votes next year than he's getting tier 4 votes right now?
For context, Drake May and Caleb Williams are both considered tier 2 quarterbacks this year. Drake May tied for 8th with Jared Goff. Caleb Williams tied for 11th with Brock Purdy. It's a wide tier 2. I believe Sando said this is the biggest tier 2 in the history of this exercise.
I got to look at Williams. I was looking at Sam Darnold during the break. That's an interesting one. Sam Darnold
tied for 14th with Baker Mayfield.
And Sam Darnold a couple years ago didn't even make the tiers because he didn't play. He wasn't even voted on. They didn't even put him in the survey. And he was tier 4 on either side of that. So he is a remarkable path. Are you guys surprised that Caleb Williams is in tier 2? Like, has he done enough to be in tier 2? That's a little generous to me. I know that the talent grabs you. He's got unbelievable talent.
I think the talent is starting to match the play. And he's been consistent enough. And they believe under Johnson, he's only going to get better. So it's almost like they're projecting him into a 2, which I think, based upon the way he played last year and what you can envision him in his, with this offense still upgrading, I think he's right where he needs to be. Now, in terms of Cam Ward, if he is Bo Nix next year, meaning tiers, if he is in that high tier 3, and because Bo got 21 tier 2 votes, 28 tier 3 votes, and 1 tier 1 vote. If that's Cam next year, then I think, okay, he's making a progression. Now, people are still going to look at it wins and losses, but I think what Bo Nix was able to do from year 1 to year 2 with Sean Payton, that's what you want to see, the development in Cam Ward. If he can go from, where is he, 25 somewhere now? If he can go from there to that top tier 3, then I think you're seeing what you need to see.
Rick says, of course, numbers guy Adam doesn't see the similarity between Drake May and Caleb Williams' improvement. They both received an elite coach before their improvement. Daboll should do the same with Cam Ward. But this is something we've talked about. We talked about it yesterday.
That's the idea.
I do think that Brian Daboll is certainly an improvement over the Titans offensive coaching staff from a year ago. I think that goes without saying. But
does it though? Like we hope. It feels like it right now.
It feels like
but
it,
until they do it, we don't know. I would.
You can make the argument that the offensive coordinator of the game, the season ticket holder for the Akron Zips, might have a better chance of calling a winning drive for the Titans than Brian Callahan and crew a year ago.
And I think, as much as that, I think that there's potentially a sizable upgrade in the guys he's throwing to.
Yes.
With Tate and the encouraging things we've seen so far, Wan'Dale Robinson, just the numbers he's put up, and he's in the same offense. You hope that that's going to translate, and the improvement of the guys that they had last year with Io Manor, DK, and hopefully a healthy Calvin Ridley who will be used to his strengths. I think I can envision just a better environment around Cam, which is definitely what happened with Williams and with May.
Yes.
Right? Their environment got better around them.
But would you put Brian Daboll in the same tier, since we're talking about quarterback tiers, would you put Daboll in the same tier as an offensive play caller as Ben Johnson and Josh McDaniels?
No, because he hasn't. Josh has done it for a long time. He may not be a great head coach, but he is a damn good play caller, as is Ben Johnson. He's proven it. So I would put those two guys ahead of Daboll. But, Daboll hasn't had, a Caleb Williams outside of Josh Allen. He was only with Josh Allen for a quick minute.
And Jackson Dart as
and
well.
Jackson Dart, quick minute. So those guys, have been in the league a long time, and I know Ben is only his second year with Caleb, but Josh McDaniels, this offense he's been running has been very, very good throughout the years.
615-737-1025 will continue to take your thoughts on Cam Wart's placement in Mike Sando's quarterback tiers at the Athletic, making his debut at number 25. 25 out of 35 quarterbacks. 615-737-1025. That puts him in tier 3 with the likes of Bo Nix, Aaron Rodgers, CJ Stroud, Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kirk Cousins. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Gentry Estes of the Tennessean will join the program. We'll get Gentry's thoughts on what he has seen at Titans training camp. Plus, Gentry was out at the first day of Vanderbilt fall camp, so we'll get his thoughts on that as well. Clark Lee also joining the program in the 4 o'clock hour. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, Connor Newt here with you. Clark Lee will join the program at 4:40. But before we get to Clark Lee, let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Gentry Estes of the Tennessean. Hello, Gentry. How are you?
I'm good, guys. Good afternoon. Good to be back with you.
Yes, thank you for joining us once again. So, Gentry, I know that you've been out at Titans training camp, and we are now 1 week into Titans training camp. I'm going to put you on the spot. Give me your way too early proclamation about the Tennessee Titans based on what you have observed through 1 week of training camp.
Way too early proclamation. Do we want a good one or a bad one? Because they're
Why not both?
All right. The good one would be, I think they're going to have one. I'm not going to say one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, but let's say top 10.
Okay.
I
That
think
is
they'll
a
be in
proclamation.
one of the better third of the defenses. You look at Robert Saleh's track record, you kind of expect that the defense is going to be a lot better. And I've liked what I've seen on that side of the ball, especially up front. I feel like they've got some dudes in that defensive line room. And it's been a while since I've seen a position group with the Titans where I felt like they had some dudes like this. They're as good up front as they've been in a while. The bad is the defense is going to need to be that good because I don't think the offense is really there yet. And you can be optimistic about Cam Ward and his development under Brian Daboll while also understanding that they could be in real trouble up front. And again, as always with these practices, right, the D-line being good could be the D-line is that good or the O-line is that bad. And I tend to think as this camp develops, we're going to see more and more of this where I just feel like the O-line's going to be overmatched by the guys they're going against up front. So a too early proclamation, that O-line's going to be terrible. But it's too early because they're going against a good D-line. You see where we can do this? We can do this all day, circular stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So, Gentry, Derek and I were having an interesting conversation yesterday as we were watching the beginning of training camp practice. We were observing Robert Saleh as he was going around and slapping hands with every member of the team during stretches. And Derek wondered if Saleh in his second go-around as an NFL head coach perhaps is going to smooth out some of his rough edges after failing in New York. And that is magnified, of course, by being in New York and having a 20-36 record as a head coach. I'm curious for your very early observations of Robert Saleh as a head coach. We haven't seen him coach a game yet. We've only been seeing him in mini camp and training camp. But I'm just wondering, just your early read on Saleh as Titans head coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think a topic that's come up a lot so far in his tenure is that question of what did you learn from your time in New York? What are you planning to do differently? And he's always answered and said that, yeah, he did learn a lot and with a lot of reflection and going about some things a certain way. I don't know if that's really manifested itself yet, but I do think a lot of that will probably be relationship with players, getting guys to buy in. And I feel like Saleh stepped into a situation with the Titans that a lot of coaches would like from the standpoint of this is a team that is ready to buy in. This is a hungry team where a lot of the guys on this team have dealt with a lot of losing the last couple of years. And you could get that sense, starting with Jeffrey Simmons, but some other guys too. You could get that sense during Saleh's introductory press conference. The players that showed up, there's just a sense in the building that they're tired of this. And I feel like whoever the coach was, he was going to get a high level of buy-in from this team because they're just ready to do things different and start winning. And I think Saleh has been a good fit for that to this point. In terms of the nuts and bolts of what he's really going to do differently, you know, in terms of calling plays or on the sideline in games, I mean, we'll see how it goes. But I do think Brian Daboll's presence is worth mentioning here too. I think he's in a very similar situation as Saleh, a coach in New York who comes down here with a lot to prove. And I think the two of them together both create a coaching staff that has about as much to prove as any staff anywhere, and they're coaching a team that has about as much to prove as anyone anywhere. And I think that's probably a good fit.
We're talking with Gentry Estes of the Tennessean. Now, Gentry, which guy out there or guys have impressed you so far, and how do you think these particular players impact, whether it be the position or the offense or defense?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like Manor so far, and maybe not. That's not a huge surprise. I mean, he was productive last season. It's just he seems to have a little more aggression to him. He's standing out a little more. He made a few plays in traffic. There's just he looks a little different to me. He's carrying himself a little different. I don't know if that's confidence in his second year, but I think it's also the sign of a guy who was at risk of getting passed over on this roster a little bit. They went and signed some guys and drafted Carnell Tate and signed Wandell Robinson. And he comes into this training camp with his role actually less secure now than it was when he was a rookie. And, some guys respond differently than others, and he seems to have responded well. I've been encouraged by that. But there haven't been a lot of guys on the offense that I think have been all that encouraging. I think most of the guys that have stood out that you kind of nod your head at it have been on the defense. And a big question I had kind of coming into this was the secondary. I did feel like, you look at the D-line and you felt pretty good about things. And I think at linebacker as well, in the front seven, what has impressed me isn't necessarily the top guys as much as the fact that they're a lot deeper than they've been. You look at that, when the second team defense is out there, you're looking at a D-line and a linebacker group that's got first and second round draft picks out there. They have quietly built up the depth defensively to where I think they're going to be able to play the way Saleh wants to play, subbing in and out a lot. And you've seen that too. A lot of guys going from first team to second team defense and even third string. And you're just a lot deeper. A guy like Anthony Hill, maybe you don't need to start right away, but he's been impressive. I feel like James Williams, kind of forget about him. He's been impressive. You're starting to see some development with some of the younger guys on defense, and I think that's a good thing. And going back to the secondary, we're not even really questioning Kevin Winston as the starting safety. He's just entrenched himself already as a key guy in this defense, and that to me is very encouraging for a guy who really wasn't that healthy a lot of last season, and he seems to be a no doubt kind of guy for this defense. So that I think he's somebody they can rely on.
Now, we've talked a lot about the changes they made in the wide receiver room, and rightfully so. I think that's been one of the positions they've made a tremendous upgrade to. But we haven't talked much about the tight ends. Have you gotten an idea or a sense of how they're going to be used in this Daboll offense? Because it seems like this is a position that I think is a really good position, but because of the offense and what they may look to cater to more, the tight end may be sort of the lost position in his offense. But how do you feel you got a glimpse of how they're going to use them?
They're not throwing much to the tight ends, are they? I mean, they're just not showing up. I mean, this is definitely not the old training camps of Ryan Tannehill finding Anthony Firkser a million times over the. No, I mean that's not what this is. And I think you're right. I mean, maybe Gunnar Helm can step up and be that kind of guy, but I don't know. Not real encouraged with what they have at tight end. It seems like for years now, the Titans have just kind of disregarded that position a little too much, and they haven't really tried to get a difference maker at that spot like maybe they had in the past with some of these other guys. And I don't know if it's a function of this offense and what Daboll wants to do, but no, we have not seen a lot out of the tight ends. That's for sure.
Gentry Estes is with us for the Tennessean, and Gentry, I thought it was noteworthy about just how non-dramatic yesterday's skirmish felt in comparison to some past ones. Do you agree in terms of how Robert Saleh just matter-of-factly handled the Jeffrey Simmons fight within the offensive line, defensive line situation compared to the circus it was a couple of years ago? I thought it was a noteworthy change.
I see what you're saying there. I think, look, one thing that stuck out to me at the first padded practice on Monday, did y'all notice how long the plays were going without a whistle? They were letting these guys push and shove 10, 15, 20 yards down the field. And when you really saw, I mean, I think that's their way of wanting to see who kept playing, and defense not trying to rip the ball out, and then the ball carrier finishing runs, that kind of thing. But that, to me, is a recipe that is designed to cause these skirmishes. When you keep playing, there's a lot of pushing and shoving down the field. I was a little surprised we didn't see more of these skirmishes on Monday because of those late whistles. And, we asked Saleh about it, and he said, well, we'll stop the play. We're just trying to see, the ball carriers finish plays and things like that. But to me, when you see what seemed like deliberately late whistles, it kind of made me wonder if they wanted to see a little of that. That's just my read on it.
I know you've been over at Vanderbilt football practice here recently as well. Tell me what you're picking up over there as they try to come off a season. I mean, this is unprecedented, right? Coming off of a season that they're coming off of, and the follow-up, everybody's curious to see what they've got.
Yeah, first practice this morning, still pretty early out there. It's interesting, Diego Pavia was there, guys. He was at practice. So just when you think he's not walking through that door, he walks right through that door. No, but I think obviously the big question being the quarterbacks. We saw in the spring how talented Jared Curtis was. I think it's going to come down to, it's pretty clear that in talent, that's not going to be very close, but I think it's going to be what they believe gives them the best chance to win games. And if that's Blaise Berlowitz and an offense that stays a lot more buttoned up and just hands it to Cedric Alexander 25 times a game, I think they'll do that. I do. And I think, Jared Curtis is going to have to step up and win this job. And I think to do that, he's going to have to earn the trust and respect of older teammates and veterans around that team. And, that's what the next couple of weeks are going to tell us. If it is Curtis, though, he is a talent, and he is something that I'm not sure. These are very first world problems that Vanderbilt football has with a quarterback like that, because I feel like if he isn't the guy, the fans are going to really wonder why. And they're going to want to see the best recruit in program history, quote marks, on the football field. But I think, given what's happened the last couple of years, I think Clark Lee's he'll be able to do what he wants to do and what he thinks is best, because he has proven to know what works in this league. And I think if it isn't Jared Curtis, then I think there'll be a good reason. But, I think for all of us, it'd be a lot more entertaining if it was.
Another thing that goes along with that is, I think we would all agree, Cam Ward's first year as a rookie in the NFL. I realize the NFL and the SEC are two different things, but Cam Ward's environment was really tough. He didn't have a lot of help. I'm curious because Vanderbilt through the years, right, hasn't had, for example, when they had a talented guy like Jay Cutler, they had very limited stuff around him, and it was up to Jay Cutler to sort of carry the team, even when he was a freshman and a sophomore. It seems like Vanderbilt has gotten very good at their formula of building a pretty good roster around if and when Jared Curtis does take over.
Yeah, no question. And I think that gets overlooked too much with Vanderbilt here when people are talking about what's happened to that program the last couple of years. Understandably so. Everyone looks at Pavia, and I get it. I mean, he was such a spark plug and a key to what it was they were doing. But when you really look at Vanderbilt, it's a little bit similar to what I said earlier about the Titans. When you look at their D-line and some of the O-line's been rebuilt nicely, but you look at their defense, I was out there watching the scrimmage this spring, and their third-string defense, I mean, guys, they had legit D1 transfers out there running around on the D-line, linebacker, and you could tell it. I have a hard time believing that Vanderbilt football's roster has ever been as deep as this one. They have done a lot of very good work in the transfer portal and building this up. They've stacked a few years of this now, and they're doing a lot more than what they've ever been able to do historically just by recruiting high school players. I think the success of the last two seasons certainly helped a lot, but so has NIL. I don't know why everyone was so convinced that Vanderbilt was going to be overmatched in NIL. That's a wealthy school with a wealthy alumni base. And I think Vanderbilt has built up in several sports in NIL, maybe a little better than what would have been expected. This is a more talented roster than it gets credit for around the SEC. And I think that did get overshadowed by Diego Pavia and his performance the last couple of years. Maybe they don't go win 10 games without Diego Pavia, but I do think this is still the kind of team, even with uncertainty at quarterback, that could go to a bowl game, have a winning season, and continue a lot of the momentum that they've been building.
Gentry, before we let you go, because this will flow nicely into the conversation we're going to have after we get off the phone with you, can you speak to the absurdity of the Arion Carter suspension for Tennessee?
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty crazy, right, that he gets suspended 2 games when you had a guy who was betting on his own team who got 1 game by a judge. I don't know. I've given up on trying to figure any of this out with the NCAA. I just hope they get to a point where they have a handle on this to where they're actually able to enforce their own rules that matter. Because in this particular instance, it felt as if they were really going out of their way to enforce a rule that didn't matter. It seems absurd given what's happened with the sport. I think anybody would look at that and be able to see that. It's a matter of selective enforcement by a legislative body that is becoming more irrelevant by the day. They need some help. And, the idea of Arion Carter getting suspended for something like that, it's you look back and just 5-10 years ago, the things that the NCAA was suspending players for and taking eligibility away for, it's just become adorable in comparison to what's going on now. And I don't know. The NCAA is anytime you feel as though they couldn't possibly get more out of touch, here they go proving that wrong.
Gentry Estes of the Tennessean has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick. Of course, that's where you can read all of his outstanding columns. Gentry, as always, a pleasure. We'll catch up soon.
You bet. Take care, guys.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, we will talk about the Arion Carter suspension because Josh Heupel had some choice words for the NCAA yesterday. We'll play those for you and discuss it coming up next. 615-737-1025. But you know what? Let's give away some tickets, shall we? If you would like a 4-pack of tickets to the PBR Stampede Days at Bridgestone Arena next week, be caller number 3 right now at 615-737-1025. Caller number 3 will win a 4-pack of tickets to PBR Stampede Days at Bridgestone Arena. Tickets will either be for Friday, August 14th or Sunday, August 16th. Caller number 3 right now, 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, 1025 The Game.
All right, let's talk Twice Daily. Still a new sponsor on the show. Glad to have them aboard. What is their message? Well, I've been telling you every day. Daily, right? Twice daily. They've got their rewards program. Convenience stores are going to be part of your flow, your daily routine in a lot of cases. And Twice Daily wants you to know their rewards program is going to save you money. Going to that go-to spot. You'll earn points every time you use the Twice Daily membership. You're going to save money every visit. Enter into sweepstakes if you like. Get the special discounts. If you're looking for convenience, Twice Daily has you covered. That's what it's all about. So when you're having that crazy day, you can rely on Twice Daily to restore that quick routine, get you back on track, and stay on pace with the fast pace of life. It's Twice Daily, fresh all day.
ruling that came out from the NCAA, the 2-game suspension, I truly believe is bull. You look at the landscape of college football, the rules from NIL, everything. I think the ruling is completely outdated.
No lies detected from Josh Heupel yesterday as he reacts to the suspension of Arion Carter. Arion Carter will miss 2 games after an agent paid for his flight during the NFL pre-draft process, valued at $427.48. So, as Gentry Estes said in the previous segment, I have stopped trying to understand how the NCAA enforces these things, but I can't argue with the choice of words from Josh Heupel on this decision, Willie, to suspend Arion Carter for 2 games. It was actually 3 games initially. Then, after an appeal, it was reduced to 2 games.
3 games.
So it was supposed to be 3, but now it's 2.
This story's been marinating for a couple days, and I mean, I don't care if you're a Vanderbilt fan, an Alabama fan, like the teams that can't stand Tennessee the most, like whatever you think those schools are. I have yet to find the person that thinks this was a sound ruling, or even thinks it's like, this is look what happened to Tennessee. Like, this is one where this makes 0 sense on any level in today's thing. It's absolutely unanimous that people think this is ridiculous. It's amazing. Like, whoever wrote the release or the final verdict, like the person had to grab the page, right? Whoever's going to put this out to the media and look at it like a judge does when they see the verdict of a trial, and look at, like, there's that look, you look above your glasses, like, are you guys sure that this is right? I mean, it's so ridiculous.
I don't know what the NCAA call themselves doing. I get it. It was a rule, and he broke it, but he paid the money back. And even, I mean, if you want to suspend it for 1 game, okay. But to suspend it for 2 games, you actually had 3, like y'all said. They had 3, and they got negotiated down to 2. It was $400, and he paid it back. He was going through a process. It's not like he took this secret flight to see a team or an agent, and it was found out. No, you knew about it, and he then paid the money back. So the whole 3 games to 2 games doesn't make any sense. Again, you would be standing on firmer ground if you said, okay, he's suspended for a game or half a game. But to get more than that, I just think it's like, okay, now y'all want to wake up and start doing something.
So from The Athletic, if you haven't been following this story, after Arion Carter elected to enter the NFL draft this offseason, he accepted a flight from an agent valued at $427.48. However, amid Carter's draft preparation, his team discovered a toe injury that required surgery, which would have prevented him from working out in front of NFL teams for several months. Carter withdrew from the draft before the deadline for underclassmen to decide and repaid the money before disengaging from the agent, Tennessee told the NCAA. The NCAA said in a statement, quote, NCAA rules are clear. Are we sure about that? Student athletes may not sign with agents to pursue NFL draft opportunities, and this student athlete knowingly violated those long-standing rules. When student athletes violate NCAA rules, the school declares them ineligible and works with the national office to determine requirements for reinstatement, which can include repayment and or withholding from competition.
I mean, he paid it back. It wasn't that much money. This is a new era that we all know about. It's such a no-brainer. Like I said, it's like I have yet to hear the person, but hey, what about this? Like, nobody has that.
My understanding is Big Joe Dubin supports the NCAA's decision. I heard that on Robbie and Rexroad.
Okay, so he's the dissenter.
The Joes, Rexroad and Dubin, have been sparring about this.
You know his reasoning behind that, right?
Remind me.
His reasoning is, well, Pete Rose broke a rule, and he's not allowed in the Hall of Fame, so this is the same thing.
Oh.
Genius.
Again,
Very much so.
you can't compare the two. But again, I understand that it was a rule in the rule book. But again, he paid it back. He went through the whole process. He wasn't trying to hide it. Okay, if you want to suspend him for a game or a half a game, okay, people can probably understand that. And you still have a faction of the group that would be upset. But 2 games? First it was 3, but then you said, okay, we're going to do you a favor. We're going to give you 2 games.
And he's still missing a game against Georgia Tech.
Exactly.
That's an important
And that's
game.
why a lot of people are upset, because you have the leader of your defense. He may just be the best player on your defense. And for a small infraction like this, it's like this. The NCAA, just stop. Just stop. Go find something to do. Go help pick up trash, like in the local neighborhood somewhere. Because right now, y'all ain't doing nothing.
No, I mean,
but just making people more upset.
10, 15 years ago, this would have been the scandal. Oh my God. He got how much? $427? You can't do that. Also, anytime I hear the word student athlete, I sort of cringe at this point.
Yeah,
they're an athletic student. That's what they are. I've always said that.
I do. I do almost not want to know sometimes, like, what school is like, with all of the things that any student has now with AI and Chat GPT and all these things. But when you're now basically a professional athlete and you quote go to a school, I do wonder how much range there is of how many guys really do value and get to class and go through the work. I hope that the coaches still find time.
I'm sure they do.
I understand it's a big money thing. Like, who's kidding who, right? I think Danny White had some interesting comments about just the whole thing about, do they need to have collective bargaining and stuff? He's a collective bargaining guy, but he basically called out what's happening and said, we just need to get real, and call it what it is. This is pay for play. These are professional athletes. Let's not go through the charade of the NIL and make it about, hey, you're using it. It's all straight up pay. It's what it is.
It is. And
so where does school come in? Where do rules come in? Right now, there's none.
I think school is still a big part. If it was a big part of your program before this, I think it's still a big part of your program after this. Now, it may be by case situation when you're talking about individual players. But I think, the attention toward and importance toward, education, I think is still there for the most part. But, because now these students are able to, earn, a pay or leave and choose to go somewhere else, it makes it harder for you to sort of obtain that goal, which is to get a degree, because you're moving from school to school. It may take you a little bit longer, but there are more kids. We only see the kids that they talk about all the time. There are more kids that are just athletes that are just going to school, and they know that big payday isn't coming in college, nor is it coming after college. And you have more of those students playing their sport, especially when the numbers are larger, like football, playing the sport, maybe getting a little money, but understands I'm still got to go to school.
I'm reminded of I don't know if they do this anymore, but I'm reminded of the ad that always plays during the NCAA men's basketball tournament, where it's like 80% of our athletes will, have a career in something other than sports. You know what I mean? Like I think about that. I don't remember the exact number.
It's true.
It's like 97, 98%.
Yeah.
Yes. But
again, even if you I always make this point, even if you make it, okay, like I played 2 years of minor league baseball. So in a way, I made it. Like, it was my dream to get drafted. I got drafted. I played 2 years. And then I was 24 and it's right out of college when you're 21 or 22, or you make it for a while. Maybe you make the NFL for 2 or 3 years on a practice squad. Maybe you have one great season, but they're all of the pathways, even for the guys who quote made it, the 1 or 2%,
Yeah.
By the time you're 26, 27, in most cases, you got a long way to go in your life. What are you doing? Are you prepared for that transition? And even if you made a couple $1,000,000 in college, or made a couple $1,000,000 when you combine college and pro, you still that's not going to set you for life, right? In almost all of the cases. So the ones that are smart are paying attention to where am I going to school alongside of what am I doing for sports?
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Arion Carter suspension. Was suspended 3 games, now only 2 games for accepting a flight from an agent valued at roughly $430. Just seems absurd to me, considering everything that's been happening with the NCAA over the past several years. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll keep it in college. We will be joined by Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. Today was Vanderbilt's first day of fall camp, so we'll catch up with Clark Lee about that first day. Of course, we'll ask him about his quarterback competition and more coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Clark Lee will join us momentarily. Willie's in charge of music today.
Yeah, who's winning the battle, Mariah or
One texter says Mariah is overrated.
overrated?
Whoa.
Wait, hold on a second.
Fighting
I ain't
words,
going to
Chief.
go that far now.
Come on.
Whoa. She may not be better than Whitney, but there's a lot of people that ain't better than
We're
Whitney.
throwing out a little healthy debate. Whitney at her best versus Mariah at her best. I think it's a pretty good toss-up. Overrated is not in the lingo of either one, I don't think.
Should we ask Clark Lee
Well,
for his
we could,
choice
yeah,
when he
we could.
comes on here momentarily? I'm firmly in camp Mariah Carey just because.
Really?
Well, Whitney Houston, I feel like maybe predates me a little bit. I am.
But they're both. I feel like Whitney is more so timeless, right?
Yeah,
She's just timeless.
Whitney is like air. You need it. You just need it. Okay.
All right. You know what? We'll have Clark Lee serve as the tiebreaker. Let's go to our phone line driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. Clark, we will ask you about football practice, but before we do, we need you to break a tie. Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston?
At their best.
Is this what we're doing today?
No, we'll get to the real
you
stuff
got-
in a moment.
We're just starting you
I
off
just
with a
wanna know-
change-up. We're starting you off with a change-up. We're coming with the
Well, listen.
fastballs after that.
I just want to be clear that you guys and I are on totally different planets right now. So I'm only focused on football. But if I'm going to have a vote here, I'm going to go with Whitney.
There you go.
Okay.
See? Come on now.
Although you can't beat Mariah Carey on the Christmas album, so I got to give credit where credit's due.
Mhm.
Well, we'll get you back into football mode here instantly. So today was the first day of fall camp, and I know the first day of fall camp, Clark, is just one data point in a long season. But is there anything specific you watch for on the first day to gauge the pulse of your team?
Maybe not so much pulse of the team, just because I think you're going to get a feel for that when you're 2 weeks in and you kind of been challenged. But I think today it's about the initial responses. It's about kind of the mindset part of it, because when you add the helmets and you add the shock pads, you change the conditions. They've been used to running around without helmet and in t-shirts, and now it's going to be a little hotter and there's going to be a little more physical to it, and you're going to see how they respond. And honestly, I wasn't thrilled about that today. When I watched the film, I thought we had a pretty good day, but in the moment, I felt like we were giving into the conditions a little too much on the perimeter. And so a lot of room for improvement, but I like the team, and I'm going to keep pushing them. And I know they're accepting of that. And we're excited to have day one behind us and focus now on day two.
We heard Diego Pavia was at practice today, Clark, and I know his goal is to land with a team, but two-part question. Do you anticipate him continuing to be around the program as he searches for that team? And how will you utilize him as you enter the post-Pavia era on the field?
Well, and I think he has a number of different opportunities that he's working through. And he's just got to kind of figure out what's next for him and what he wants to do, and no matter what he chooses, obviously, not only do we support him, but we honor him as such an important part of our family. And so to have him here today was really meaningful. It was great to see him. I enjoy watching practice with him because he'll always kind of give me the inside scoop on the quarterback position and what he's seeing, which is fascinating. This guy's got such a great football mind. And I told him today, anytime he's in town, I want him around. I want him to be in meetings with us. I'd love for him to sit in with the quarterbacks and just kind of share his wisdom. And he obviously is so invested in what we're doing and has so many close relationships in our program that it was really natural for him to be here today. And I expect him to be around when he's in Nashville for sure.
We'll talk with Clark Lee, Vanderbilt's head football coach, as they head into fall camp. Now, Coach, every year, and I think I know I asked you this question last year as well, because faces change, and they change as much as they've ever changed in today's football. But is the message the same each and every year, but then you add some new things to it, or does the message change?
The foundation, like kind of the core DNA of who we are, stays the same. It's kind of, we're pulling forward a culture and an environment that we've been really building over 6 years. It's kind of really come into focus over the last few seasons. But obviously, every team is different, and so and I hope that I'm evolving in my role too. So maybe subtle points of emphasis shift, really kind of through the course of the year, getting to know the personality of this group and where I feel like we need to improve, gives me a chance to adjust the message in ways that are meaningful to them, but also demand that the things that we know represent Vanderbilt football show up all the time. So, and I think there's some comfort in that. Like what we've done has been successful. It hasn't gotten us all that we want. And so we need to file and refine. We need to continue to improve. And yet we know there are certain core components of that identity that have to be there for us if we're going to have success.
Now, Jared Curtis obviously is one of the, if not the biggest recruit that you've had on your team. And have you had a chance to talk with other coaches, for instance, Sark down at Texas? Because when Manning was out, it was, you got to play him. But he found a way to allow the guy to mature as a quarterback and yet still play him when he needed to be played. Do you consult with guys like that are in the situation that you're in?
So certainly. I mean, anyone that I feel like has experience, and it doesn't have to even be in football. You got a young player who has elite skills, who obviously needs to show that he can kind of handle the down in, down out operation. But how do you know when someone's ready? How do you know what they're ready for? Those are great conversations to have. And at this point, though, I've kind of turned the page on that, and it's just about focusing on where these guys are day in, day out. Really being present with them through training camp and being thorough in our evaluation, and also improving them through camp too. I mean, I thought there were strides made at the quarterback position through the summer. I'm excited that we've kind of changed the launching point for us here in training camp through our work in the summer. And now, how do we not go out every day thinking the job's on the line, but instead just focus on continuous improvement and, being at our best and making our mistakes full speed. But, I've talked to, not Sark specifically, but I had a great conversation with Coach Saban, who's been in situations where he's had freshmen that were a certain level ready to play. I've talked to guys outside the sport and then some inside the sport. So always try to keep the kind of network active, and anytime I have a chance to get some knowledge or information or insight from someone who's lived it, I try to do that.
Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee is with us, and Clark, we last got to see Jared Curtis, most of us, at the spring game, and in the summer you don't have official practices, but for him, just getting acclimated to the college lifestyle and things, that's, I'm sure, valuable. Where else can a guy improve during that time of the year? What do you try to emphasize with somebody like that?
In terms of training camp?
Well, in terms of over the summer, how you make use of the time and try to get yourself ready for camp.
Yeah, the beauty of the summer, like we say in our program, summer is for mastery. So a lot of times you're dealing with far fewer distractions. You have 24 hours in the day. Obviously, we want to sleep and recover, but you got a lot of time that you can spend in the meeting room and around your teammates. And both of those things are important. I think obviously connecting around ball is super important. And for a young player, there's not enough time that you can spend in the meeting room and the film room learning the process. But also important is actually building genuine and authentic connection with teammates, because that shows up for you when it gets hard and the struggle is inevitable. So that's really the push. And you see that, I mean, certainly with Jared, but with all these guys, there's a closeness and a connection that came out of the summer. And what we can't do is allow the context of competition to steal that from us. This is about building the best team we can build. And that means each individual has to come into it, certainly aspiring to the best role or the role that they want, but also understanding ultimately they got to fill the role the team needs them to fill. And that's hard, for anyone and any time, certainly in the times we're in right now, it's challenging, to not be so individual focused. But these guys are incredible with what they've sacrificed to get to this point. And the care they have for one another shines through. And my job is to make sure we keep our focus there, and again, build the best team we can build.
How do you think Blaise Berlowitz has handled his unique challenge? Because I've certainly been the guy that you work hard behind the scenes, you're waiting for an opportunity, and now the window is probably open for him more than it has been in the past, and he wants to make the most of it. So what are you seeing from him?
Consistency. I think he had a really good summer, and I was very happy for him in that. Obviously we're one day in here, but today he looks steady. He's not holding it too tight, and that's so important. I mean, I think he has the confidence that in his mind the job is his, but he's also such a good person, a great teammate, and I know he's got a connection with all those guys in that room. But he's specifically built a friendship with Jared, and so I see that as a sign of his own confidence in himself, and I trust him no matter how it shakes out to be a great teammate. But really happy for him and how he's handled himself, and really the consistency and kind of professionalism he's brought day in, day out through the summer and now into the training camp.
Last thing for you today, I look at the roster and I see a lot of guys that have been there and now have built something, right? A Junior Sherrill, a Dante Carter. I'm just looking down the list, the Cedric Alexander, guys like that. I'm sure they have a lot of pride on building what's there. And then you've got a group of new guys that are trying to take you to another level. How is the mix between guys that have been there for 2 or 3 years and your new group?
Yeah, I mean, and just obviously like Miles Capers, Issa Watara, Brian Longwell. I mean, we could go on and on.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of guys who are foundation. Kiva Wesley's been here 7 years. He's been here longer than I've been here.
It seems like Nick Rinaldi's been there for 7 years.
Rinaldi, another one. Yes. First of all, these guys, and again, if I'm missing someone, it's not because I don't love and respect them. These guys are so meaningful to me, and in so many ways, I think we've grown together through the struggle of this, and we share in celebration of where it is, and in our hope to take it further. And so as we introduce new players, be it freshmen or I think more challenging sometimes, guys that have a lot of snap experience and success at the college level, where they've done it in a different program. What we need to make sure is that the voice of the guys that have been here the longest is the loudest. That there's a real need for incoming players to learn what Vanderbilt football is from those that have experienced it, lived it, helped elevate it. And then once they do, their job is not to revert back to old habits, but it's to help us move it further. And we've been clear about that with those guys since January. I think, again, we're such a program of responses, and I think some of the proudest moments I've had are times where we've had our backs against the wall, and we've kind of punched our way back into a game, or punched our way into a result, or certainly rallied in a season and had a chance to find success. And so the caretakers of that legacy are those guys that have been here the longest. And we're working hard to make sure the newcomers understand exactly what Vanderbilt football is. And I'm really happy with their progress in that. We're not all the way there yet, but again, we'll keep hammering away at it until we put a team on the field that we think fully represents our program.
Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Fall camp underway for the Commodores, who open the season September 5th against Austin Peay. Clark, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. We look forward to doing it again soon.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. And I'll let you guys get back to the important stuff. Came on and interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt. Y'all take care.
615-737-1025. Clark Lee says Whitney Houston, so I think the matter is closed, but
Yes.
We'll continue to take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Newt here with you on your commute home. Hopefully stress-free. No Titans practice today, or at least not open to reporters, but practice will be opened to reporters tomorrow. We will all be there. We are expected to be joined after practice by Carnell Tate. Looking forward to that conversation. We will play it for you during the program tomorrow. So keep that in mind. Carnell Tate on the program, exclusive interview tomorrow. I don't know what time yet. We'll tell you when we know. But there was practice yesterday, and one of the headlines from practice yesterday was Jeffrey Simmons being put in timeout by Robert Saleh after mixing it up with multiple members of the offensive line. He threw a punch. Robert Saleh says, if you throw a punch in the game, you're out. If you throw a punch in a practice, you're out. So Jeffrey Simmons went to a side field and worked by himself for the remainder of practice. And this was something I was wondering about earlier today. Jeffrey Simmons is no stranger to getting into these skirmishes, scuffles, brouhahas, clashes, ding, 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 all of my synonyms. He's no stranger to these situations. But this is my question. 615-737-1025. Should Jeffrey Simmons be above this by now when considering, A, his new contract, which for about a month made him the highest paid defensive tackle, right, in NFL history, and his standing within the NFL? He is considered one of the best players, if not the best player at his position in the NFL. Don't listen to the NFL 100 player ranking or whatever it was that had him 83rd or 84th or whatever that was. We know that Jeffrey Simmons is an elite defensive player. I'm wondering, Derek Mason, I know some of you are going to probably chime in and say, boys will be boys. It's football practice. This happens at football practice. Emotions run high, all of those things. But I'm just wondering where Jeffrey Simmons is now, his importance to the team, the contract, his standing within the NFL, if this is something that should be behind him by now.
Well, I said it yesterday. I thought the only thing that I was disappointed in was that it happened again. Like, there should be a point where you can get to as a player, especially as a player that has been in the NFL as long as Jeffrey has and has been a dominant player for half of those years. You got to be able to get to a point where you don't throw punches. I played with the Kevin Carters. I played with the Terrell Suggs. I played, with the Javon Curse. All these guys that whether play in, defensive tackle. I played with these guys, some mean guys, but they were able to not cross that line and put their team in harm's way. Again, this doesn't happen in the game, thankfully, but you don't want to. If it doesn't happen in the game, then why are you allowing it to happen in practice? That's the only part that I was sort of disappointed in. I thought Saleh handled it perfectly, but this goes along because Jeff has a reputation in the league at going to that line. He got some fouls last year, some penalties last year. I didn't think, but because it was Jeffrey Simmons, it was like, okay, you got to that line and we're going to throw the flag. He has to understand and realize that he plays with an aggression sometimes that has earned him, what he has and has earned him the right to be one of the better defensive players in the league, if not the best defensive lineman. But there's also this sort of, hey, Jeff, if you're leaning toward, am I going to give him a penalty or not? Sometimes he gets the penalties because he's Jeffrey Simmons. He has to understand, he has to change that narrative, and it starts in practice. So that was the only thing that I was disappointed in, is that you can't continue to say, like you said, oh, boys being boys. No, Jeffrey's in his 8th season. He shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Okay, let me play the other side of the coin because I see what you're saying. And in a perfect world, you play on the line and you never go over the line. But I do think, and I think Robert Saleh was asked a version of this question, not specific to Jeffrey Simmons, but are you willing to take an occasional unnecessary roughness call in exchange for a fierceness, an intimidating factor? He's a great player, but also there's something to be said about, man, I don't want to wake up the sleeping bear here. This guy, I don't know what's going to happen. It's like, it reminds me of Bull Durham. There's that pitch where Crash Davis goes to the pitcher, Nuke Lelouch, and he says, I want you to hit the bull. Just throw it and hit the ball. He goes, what are you talking? Just trust me. And he hits the ball. It's the really funny scene, but the catcher then Crash Davis turns to the hitter and goes, I don't know where it's going. You want that little bit of fear in the opposition going, man, this guy might just kill me.
He's got a screw loose.
He's got a screw loose.
Yes.
That's good to a point, right? And so you have the numbers. Adam, share the numbers of Jeffrey Simmons penalized in a game, because when it comes down to it, it's about what happens in the game, not in practice.
Yes,
because one person says, no, what a stupid question. You act like he's stomping people in the head. No, Jeffrey Simmons is not stomping.
We have seen a stomping in the head.
We have seen that before.
Jeffrey Simmons has not done that. But to Willie's point, I've got some numbers about the Titans as a whole and Jeffrey Simmons individually that stand out. According to Pro Football Focus, the Titans are the second most penalized team in the NFL since 2021. That includes total penalties, so it does not remove declined penalties or offsetting penalties. The Titans are the second most penalized team in the NFL since 2021.
That's not good.
They were the most penalized team in the NFL last season with 163 total penalties.
Ugh.
Jeffrey Simmons committed 10 penalties, which includes 2 declined / offsetting penalties. So 10 total penalties for Jeffrey Simmons last season. Tied for 7th out of all defensive players, regardless of position, but the most among interior defenders. He was called for 4 unnecessary roughness penalties, which I believe was tied for the league lead. And he had 1 unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And I seem to remember one of those unnecessary roughness penalties in week 1 against Denver when the Titans still had a chance in that game. It was 3rd and 10. He got a little bit too aggressive, committed an unnecessary roughness penalty. It gave the Broncos a fresh set of downs, and that was basically it. So my point is this. Like, I'm not saying that Jeffrey Simmons is, a malcontent, but I'm just wondering, those numbers do not reflect well on Jeffrey Simmons.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if it needs to bleed into practice a little bit. Should he be above this considering his standing on the team?
All right, so let me turn it to you, D-Mace. You're the coach. How many penalties? Because I'll make a hockey reference this time. Tom Wilson.
Yes.
Washington Capitals. If you know hockey, he's the guy that is going to get he's going to get some major penalties. He might get suspended, but he clearly strikes fear in the opposition because he's got a screw loose and he is a tough hombre. Like, you don't want to rub him the wrong way. I think there's a little bit of that with Simmons. It's not the same in football because you're not going to drop the gloves and have a fight, right? Like you would in hockey. But Derek, how many penalties would you be okay with in exchange for tremendous aggressive play that's going to turn into a lot of positive plays?
0. Because
so you want him to do that and you expect him to not ever have any penalties?
That is the expectation. Because that's
expectation, yes. But what's realistic?
But that is the expectation, that you go out there and you don't do anything that's going to hurt your team. Now, there is going to be a fault. I'm not talking about false starts. I'm not talking about stuff like that.
Offsides.
I'm not talking about offsides. We're talking about things that happen really after the whistle. Because all those things you talk about, those are after the whistle things. I don't expect you to get any of those. You're our leader. You can go down the line.
I thought you were going to meet me halfway. I'll take 2 over 17 games.
And listen, I ain't follow these guys per se, but these guys to me were not known as guys that were getting personal foul penalties. They could have been, but not to my knowledge. Reggie White, Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, what other good defensive lineman / defensive end, Chris Jones now, guys like that. you play up into that edge where you're not getting those those personal fouls, because coaches understand between the whistle, there's going to be some things that we don't want to happen, but it's going to happen. But when you're talking about post-snap penalties,
unsportsmanlike conduct,
we don't have have no tolerance for that.
Here are the specific kinds of penalties Jeffrey Simmons committed last season, according to the appropriately named NFLpenalties.com. 4 unnecessary roughness, 3 defensive offside, 2 neutral zone infractions, 1 unsportsmanlike conduct, 1 encroachment, 1 illegal formation.
Okay, so unsportsmanlike conduct, I agree with you,
Yes.
D-Mates. That you want that to be 0. Unnecessary roughness, okay? I can think of some plays, not specifically, but I can envision there's a lot of times where Jeffrey Simmons is coming in full tilt, going after the quarterback, and the momentum, he can't quite stop it, and he gets called. Some of those we know are tic-tac and protective of the quarterback.
Can't have them, Willie.
But
can't have them.
Some of those you can't avoid 1 or 2 of those.
You can't have them.
I have to live with a
couple. Because those are 15-yarders. You can't have them. You just can't have them. Coaches, it's just like, no, you can't. I get you playing hard, but I pay you. You're earning too much money. You've earned this, right? You're earning too much money to not be able to stop. You know where that line is. Every player knows where that. If that's the case, there should be personal fouls everywhere. But some guys are good at getting to that line and then backing off. And some guys just don't know. I played with the greatest linebacker ever. He would go full go, but he never seemed to get any personal foul.
That being Ray Lewis.
I'd like to look that up and see.
At least not why I played.
I can't think of a lot of occasions.
I'll go to NFLpenalties.com and look it up for you. Just
how
give
far
me
back are we going with the NFLpenalties.com?
I will have to look it up during the break.
But another famous case of this, right, would have been the Al Davis, John Madden, Tom Flores Raiders, right?
Yes.
They always.
But penalties was different back then.
They were. It was a different game, right? But they didn't mind being the most penalized team of the league. They were like, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. But we're also the meanest. We're the toughest. And we're still going to win the game. We're going to intimidate, all of that stuff.
We got to have, and coaches preach it every time, you got to have controlled rage. You got to be able to control that extra,
yes,
that you want to give that guy no
As
matter
Herm
what.
Edwards would say, play to the echo of the whistle, but don't play after the whistle.
Once you can't hear the whistle anymore, you're done.
It does not appear that the database goes back far enough to Ray Lewis's prime, unfortunately. But when I looked at those numbers again, the Titans are the 2nd most penalized team in the NFL since 2021. They were the most penalized team in 2025. Jeffrey Simmons tied for 7th in total penalties of all defensive players last season, 1st among interior defenders, 4 unnecessary roughness penalties, which again I believe was tied for most in the league among defensive players, or maybe throughout the entire league. It would have to be the defensive players. But go ahead.
No, Jeff will tell you the same thing. Like I'm not saying anything that I don't believe. If you put those numbers in front of him, he wouldn't say, "Yeah, I don't need to be."
He wouldn't disagree with.
Yeah, he wouldn't disagree. Like, yeah, we can't have that because
Simmons was tied with Leonard Williams for the most unnecessary roughness penalties in the NFL last season.
Here's another aspect of this on a bigger scale, and I think it's appropriate to start with Jeffrey Simmons because he is the leader, right? He's the unmistakable franchise face of the franchise guy. Most penalized teams since 2021.
Yes.
I think you said, and then last year led the league in penalties.
Yep.
No wonder they're a bad team.
I really, and my theory has always been, show me a team that's not as talented. I'll show you a team that gets more penalties and turns the ball over more. That's a big number to watch this year. Can they cut down significantly on the penalties?
The 5 most penalized teams in the NFL since 2021, according to Pro Football Focus. The Cowboys at number 1, 756 penalties. The Titans at number 2, 677 penalties. So a big gap there. The Texans at 3, 676. The Bills, 674. The Chiefs, 667. So
the difference is the Bills and the Chiefs have talent to overcome those penalties.
Mm-hmm.
The Titans didn't have the talent to overcome,
and that includes penalties on both sides of the ball,
absolutely.
not just on defense. 615-737-1025. Jeffrey Simmons ejected from practice yesterday for throwing a punch. He is no stranger to this. I'm wondering if he should be above this by now when considering his new contract. He's one of the highest paid defensive tackles in NFL history. His standing within the NFL as arguably, perhaps inarguably, the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL. I'm just wondering if this is something that he should try to eliminate from his repertoire. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your reaction coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Fingan and Donick, 102.5 The Game. How can you not love Whitney Houston? I mean, come on.
I think this is the closer. I think this ends the debate right here.
This ends the debate.
Come on, man.
This is the
It
song.
really wasn't a debate,
I think it was
but we had fun with it.
I was stepping up for Mariah Carey. The
I-
Whitney Houston
I
versus
stepped
Mariah
up for
Carey,
Mariah
best
Carey
on
as
best.
well.
I love
Best on
Mariah,
Again,
but this is the song.
Mariah's the LeBron James and Whitney's the Michael Jordan.
It is a little bit like that,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
just the GOAT.
Whitney
She's
is
the GOAT.
the Michael Jordan.
She's
I
the GOAT.
think that plays.
She's
I
the
think that
GOAT,
plays.
man.
Yeah.
Someone has accused us of having an agenda on this program against
That's not true.
Jeffrey Simmons. It's because you and me wanted to trade him,
I did.
Willie. That's
I thought that was just about
Can they
asset
elaborate on that?
management.
it had nothing to do with Simmons
No.
personally.
No, I thought they could get a huge haul for a great player. That it had nothing to do with I don't want Jeffrey Simmons in this town. It's just where the Titans are. I thought that was the better play, but they've chosen to reinvest and make him the man.
And you can think a player is great, but also think that some of these things that are occurring need to stop. And you should have sort of, matured out of that, that one thing. So Jeff's a great player. And I expect him to have the same season or even better this year. But things like that, or being the most penalized guy, those are things you have to, especially if you're trying to become a good team and then, ascend even further than that. You got to cut down on the things that you can control, and you can control that.
If you missed it, the question, 615-737-1025. Should Jeffrey Simmons be above training camp fights with his new contract and standing within the NFL? Last season, according to Pro Football Focus, Simmons committed 10 total penalties, tied for 7th out of all defensive players, but 1st out of all interior defenders, 4 unnecessary roughness penalties, tied for most in the league, and 1 unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Joey from Bellevue says Simmons has been labeled as a dirty player. Seems like every year he is punching someone at practice. Liam says, sure, he should probably be over this, but I'd rather him be overly passionate than the alternative. Just keep it out of games.
But that has nothing to do with passion. Don't equate personal fouls with passion. That's not what it is. You got to be able to play to a point where you're not getting those personal fouls. Again, there are a bunch of great defensive linemen that played this game that understands you play until the whistle. After that, you're done. You come back around and you get them on the next play. For the most part, Jeffrey does that, but he also, every now and then does things that put his team in not a good position, meaning they're personal fouls. That's all I'm saying. If he cuts down, if that's the only thing that I can say sort of sideways about Jeff, that he's having a hell of a career then, if that's the case.
One
Which
person
he
says
is.
Aaron Donald used that fierceness better. Jeff comes off as a childish hothead. Same person says there's a place for the Tom Wilson role in hockey, but not so much football. Do you agree with that, Derek?
I think that's probably fair.
Yeah, it is. Because like Willie said, you can fight in hockey. They let you drop the glove.
Yeah.
They letting you drop the gloves in the NFL.
But I do think that there is a somewhat of a parallel in an intimidation,
Yeah.
fear, strike fear in the opposition.
I mean,
think
I was scared of Jeffrey Simmons, and I was far away from Jeffrey Simmons yesterday when he was pulled out of that pile.
there are those. I hear this talk about some, and this is, again, I'm not saying I condone this, but there is something about the law of the playground, right? Where if you step out of line and you want to chirp somebody or you want to be a bully, you have to back it up. Like the old rule of I think they're probably more sensitive about these things now, but back in the day, I went to a school where at recess, there might be one lunch lady and 100 guys out there, and there were fights. Like if you took somebody's lunch money or something was going on, you better be prepared to defend yourself, right? And so I think there is something to be said about just being the biggest, baddest dude out there. That is effective in competition, right?
Yeah.
So he's got that, Jeffrey Simmons. But on the other side, the yin and the yang is keeping it contained and not having it cross the line, right?
Yes.
That's the perfect line that you're looking for. And to who much is given, much is expected, right? He's the guy that just reinvested in. They made him the man. So you have a right to say we want as close to perfection as we can get.
Craig says, getting personal fouls on a routine basis like Simmons does is selfish, immature, and hurts the team. I think Simmons has matured a lot the past couple of years, but he needs to cut down on the personal fouls. Because I don't want people to accuse us of piling on Jeffrey Simmons. As I said, the Titans are the second most penalized team in the NFL since 2021, according to Pro Football Focus. Most penalized team in the NFL last season. J.C. Latham, 14 penalties, total penalties in 2025, accepted or declined, tied for the most of any offensive player in the NFL. So Latham also has a penalty problem. So it's not just Jeffrey Simmons.
That was a big problem for JC. But I don't think his is as much about, for an offensive player. I mean, I think he had too many of the other kind, right?
So
NFL
NFLpenalties.com has him with 13 penalties. PFF has 14. So here are the breakdown. So
did they get the number wrong on one of them?
I don't know, but here's the breakdown for Latham last season: 6 false starts, 5 offensive holdings, 1 illegal block above the waist, 1 illegal formation, 1 ineligible downfield pass. So he ran the gamut.
Can you imagine? Like you're reading off the report card. Offensive holdings 5. Like the professor, like
5.
Latham 5. False starts. Latham 6. Or that this like we need to cut this down.
But that was my point. And I understand the intimidation factor. I understand what Robert Saleh said yesterday about towing the line of violence. I mean, that one quote got Joe Dubin hot and bothered yesterday. I was driving home from practice and listening to the Chase and Big Joe show, and I thought Big Joe Dubin was going to faint over that quote because how much he loved hearing that from Robert Saleh. And I understand you want to, I think, what did he say yesterday? You want to toe the line, but then you got to get right back to the huddle. You want to goad.
You want to draw the
opposition,
not take the penalty.
Yeah,
right.
because what tends to happen is if you don't find a way or know how to play with that controlled rage, guys ain't gonna do nothing but bait you in. And what happens? It's always the second guy that get called for the personal foul after the first guy gave him a quick jab to the stomach because he knows, oh, this dude's a high head. Only thing I do is do something to irritate him. He's going to throw a punch or he's going to do something to get a personal foul. That's where you have to be able to, take a step back and say, what I'm doing, is it helping my team or hurting my team? So again, Jeffrey's a great player, but that does need to stop because the numbers show it has shown up, not the throwing punches, but personal fouls have shown up in the game in regards to Jeff.
Right. Like if Jeffrey Simmons was getting into training camp scuffles and was a choir boy on Sundays, for me, I would probably disregard it. But the data shows he is one of the most penalized players in the NFL on his side of the ball. So that is a concern for me. That this is something that pops up. We talked about this yesterday. Robert Saleh did the right thing, putting Jeffrey Simmons in timeout. I think a part of the problem the past few years, Brian Callahan did not take that step.
Oh.
Brian Callahan kept Jeffrey Simmons in practice, and we saw some results of that approach, and they were not great.
Well, I think that's the question going forward: is can this team be a better disciplined team? Can they be the fast, all the little isms and little bumper sticker phrases that Robert Saleh likes, fast and violent, first 2 steps, all of these real simplified things that get down to the core of what he wants the identity to be. Can he do that and have this team not be anywhere close to the most penalized team in the league? What's that worth? That's got to be worth a couple wins if you can go from most penalized to somewhere in the middle of the pack.
So one texter says, can we correlate, good word, being the second most penalized team in the NFL since 2021, with a big reason why we've been the worst team in the NFL since 2022. Again, here are the most penalized. I'm also going to share the least penalized teams, but here are the most penalized teams in the NFL since 2021. Dallas, Tennessee, Houston, Buffalo, Kansas City. Again, the most penalized teams over the past 5 years. Dallas, Tennessee, Houston, Buffalo, Kansas City. The fewest penalties among NFL teams since 2021. Cincinnati, Atlanta, Indianapolis, Los Angeles, Rams, New England.
Well, I mean, when you look at and we mentioned this quickly before we went to break the last time, they are good enough to overcome some of the penalties.
They are far more talented.
Exactly. They have much more talent. But when you are not that team yet, but you're still leading the league or at the top of the league in penalties, it's hard for you to win, because it's like, not only do I not have the talent right now, and I'm a young team, but I'm also doing things that is hurting us. We're hurting ourselves. So I'm sure Salah I'm sure they went through that sort of portion with a fine-tooth comb, because in order to become a winning team, you got to stop doing what losers do. And losing teams do that. Majority of losing teams are high in penalties. I know there are some outliers in Buffalo and Kansas City, but they have quarterbacks that can overcome a lot of that. But when you don't have that guy yet, you can't lead the league in penalties and expect to go out there and win a game.
So I don't think you can say, hey, the fewer penalties you could, I mean, maybe you can. The fewer penalties you commit, the better chance you have to win. I think that goes without saying. But over a 5-year sample, I don't think there is a clear correlation between the number of penalties you commit and the number of wins you have. Derek makes the right point that teams with the ability to make explosive plays more frequently to overcome the penalties they're committing can live with it. But the Tennessee Titans are not in a position right now where they can be the most penalized team in the NFL and win in spite of it.
Now, here's something I just looked at, and I this was a real quick Google, and Adam, I want you to back me up because you're better at pinpointing these things. But I just asked a quick question on the Google and said, tell me about Robert Saleh's Jets teams. Were they penalized? And they, unfortunately, they were. They did have some seasons where they were pretty heavily penalized. And I'm looking at 2023 specifically. I'd like to see more. But I'm just curious, when you have that mentality of all gas, no brakes, first 2 steps, fast, furious, all that, be a wrecking ball. Being able to do that without taking the penalties, that'll be something I'm watching for.
615-737-1025. Again, our question this hour: should Jeffrey Simmons be above getting into training camp fights, considering his new contract, his standing within the NFL? I know it's football practice. It's hot. Boys will be boys, all of those things. But the numbers bear it out. Jeffrey Simmons has been an undisciplined player when it counts. So at this point in his career, coming off of the best season of his career, should he move past these training camp fights? 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction and wrap up the show. Coming up next, Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingen and Donick, 102.5. The Game wrapping up the show. Scott from Shelbyville on Jeffrey Simmons says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Also, I blame Robert Saleh. Simmons was probably just hungry, but since he banned seed oils, he couldn't have a Snickers.
There you go. Blame Saleh. The blame game starts now.
I mean, you know how I feel about seed oils. I enjoy them.
Yeah, there you go.
I never knew I was having them, so I don't know if I enjoy them or not. But if I was having something, it's like, oh, do you have anything with seed oils? I've never ordered anything with that in mind.
Let's go to our phone line driven by Wilson County, Hunter.com, and welcome in Brian. Brian, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, fellas. Glad you got me in. I think you absolutely have to hold Jeffrey Simmons accountable. I know the caller or a texter mentioned earlier about the correlation between most penalized, but there's so many factors in regards to being most penalized. A lot of times when the talent is less, they do things because of their being outplayed. And so you have old linemen holding more or defensive backs holding and those kind of things. So it can't be a direct correlation between those two. But no doubt, personal fouls will always hurt you. It's very hard for any team to overcome a 15-yard penalty. So you want Robert Saleh to hold his team accountable. And I think he did it the right way. Jeffrey Simmons, you want your players to play with the edge. And I'll give you an example, and it kind of shows my age, but I'm a Bears fan, and I remember in '85, the Bears had one of everybody knows about the '85 defense.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys played to the echo of the whistle. Stephen Michael, Dan Hampton, and Mike Singletary, all of them were tough, hard-nosed, edgy players. But the one thing that they knew, if they got in trouble, Buddy Ryan would be on the sideline ready to put both of his feet in their behinds. So I think now it's going to be interesting to see how Saleh handles when guys make penalties, because if you hold the best player on your team accountable, then everybody else gets in line. And one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't mention before I go, hey, D-Mace, go blue.
Oh,
You were doing so well, Brian. You were doing so well.
Oh, he said
I
that
thought the gold green was
ran.
coming. I thought it was coming, and he slipped the blue in there.
Brian was doing so
He
so
threw
well.
a hand grenade and ran.
That means you and Carnell Tate can team up on him tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yes, we will be
Oh, man.
catching up with Carnell Tate after practice tomorrow. Looking forward to that conversation. We'll play it for you on the show. One texter says, question, is there a penalty statistic that tracks critical game-changing penalties? It's a good question.
I'm sure there is.
Maybe I'll look into it later, but I do want to end the show on something a bit more humorous. This was going around on social media yesterday. I'm sure all of you, or not all of you, but most of you play fantasy football. And maybe your league requires the last place finisher to do something humiliating. Well, there was one gentleman who finished last in his fantasy football league, and his punishment was to play golf without a ball with strangers.
How does one play golf without a ball?
He was
shadow ball?
He was pretending to hit the ball.
Okay.
Did he get a hole in one every shot?
I was going to say, did he score well? Yeah.
Exactly.
In theory, you could have a perfect shot every time.
Absolutely.
Shadow ball.
I'm reminded of another fantasy football punishment that went viral a few years ago, where the loser of the league had to stay in a Waffle House for 24 hours, and each waffle consumed decreased the penalty by an hour. So if you wanted to get out of there faster than 24 hours, you had to eat a lot of waffles.
Okay. How many waffles do you think you could eat in a reasonable amount of time? And what would be the right balance? Like, what are you shooting for? Have to sit there for 5 hours? Could you eat 19 waffles?
Yeah.
20 waffles, 4 hours?
I think
This gentleman ate 9 waffles.
Ooh.
So he only spent 15
Okay.
hours at the Waffle House.
I think I would try to down a couple more just so I can get out of there.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, we played fantasy football one year, and the loser, we bought him a Wendy's 4 for $4, which is the burger, the fries, chicken nuggets, and the Frosty. And we made him run around the track. So
Ooh.
every lap he did, he had to eat an item, and then he had to run it off.
Oh, man.
It didn't stay down. I'll tell you
I'm
that much.
sure it didn't. Wow.
Willie, you did share a punishment that your son Mahoney endured.
Yes.
After losing his fantasy football league.
His high school buddies, and the league still extends into their college years here, but they always have a fun. I don't know if I would call it fun, but they have a penalty for finishing last in the league, and Mahoney went from first to worst one year.
Ooh, man.
And he had to go through a mall with Speedos on, basically. And he did get ejected from the mall after he was discovered. But it was definitely captured. And
what mall was it? Was it out in some?
No, it was
by Derek's house.
It was Cool Springs. It was Cool Springs.
No, it was the Green Hills Mall.
Oh snap!
The Green Hills Mall.
That's a classy mall.
Yes, I hope the statute of limitations is run out.
Oh man!
Was he banned from the premises?
He had to go during peak hours.
He was ejected. Oh, it was definitely during the peak hours.
Oh man!
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't do that. No, I couldn't. No.
I had to say, I gave him credit for going through with it. I was like, man, you got guts.
One texter says Waffle House waffles are the size of the plate. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not. It's a lot.
It's not an Eggo waffle to get out of there. You've got to eat a big waffle. So 9 waffles is impressive. I did see one earlier this summer where the loser of a league had to go trick-or-treating in June until he got 10 pieces of candy.
Yeah.
We might have to come back with this because I've never played in a fantasy league that does this, but I think if it's a fun thing, then that's good. There are times where I would not want, I would refuse to do the penalty.
Nah.
Right? Because it's just not fun.
Should we implement a silly underdogs punishment like this?
For the last place
finisher? I think we should.
If everybody agrees that it's tasteful and fun,
yes.
Then
See,
maybe
when you get to a certain age, you gotta taper down the punishments.
Craziness.
Yeah, the craziness. You gotta taper it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you tell me it's like the craziest thing I want to do is just walk in the store without my shirt on. That's it. I don't want to go anything above that.
The older you get,
yes,
what you consider crazy is
exactly
changes, right?
So if you
sliding
lose,
scale,
Dennis,
I
we'll
would
put you
think
in
that
blue
was
and
crazy.
and make you sit on the street.
I'm imagining having to stand on Broadway in one of those sandwich boards with some sort of message for a couple of hours like that during the height of foot traffic on Broadway.
That could be good.
We'll work for food.
Shave the head was one.
Well, that doesn't work.
But that really doesn't apply.
Except for Connor.
That's going to be my punishment, isn't it?
Ours should be,
Connor's
we got to get a sign
let it
made
rock like we do.
with 1025 The Game DVD. And for an hour, we got to go on Broadway at peak time and spin the thing around like we're promoting the station. Just spin it around and stand there. That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Actually might have a benefit to the
Exactly.
station.
That's
Absolutely.
an endorsement, not a punishment.
But you got to do it.
With no water.
With no
That's
shirt
the
on.
punishment.
No
With
water. Oh boy.
No shirt on and water.
in December.
I do always feel bad, especially in the summer months, for the people who do stand outside the stores with the big signs. I'm like, man, that can't be fun. Hey, you got to make a buck somehow, but that can't be fun. But I saw the footage of the guy playing golf without a ball with strangers, and I just thought
to be funny.
I
wonder how he convinced the strangers to let him play.
One texter says y'all's punishment should be the loser has to wear a wig for 1 month at all times.
For 1 month at all times?
For 1 month.
A month?
At all times?
That's harsh.
That's harsh
day.
right there.
A
day, yes. But a month? No.
No, I don't know if I'd be allowed in my house if I came in with a wig. What kind of wig are we
just
talking?
A curly wig. I mean, it could be a curly wig, an afro.
Could you switch up the
Richard
wig?
Simmons.
Yes.
Richie Simmons, yeah. You can go with
the
Richie
loser
Simmons.
sings "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at First Horizon Park on the field.
Do you think they would want that?
That's not really a punishment. That's
That's
could
an
be
honor.
fun.
If
That
you're
could
a
be fun,
terrible
yeah.
singer, it's a punishment.
Yeah.
But
Adam,
they
we
don't
make you
expect you
wear
to be
red.
good.
Absurdly long wig, the texter says, like down to your lower back.
Oh, no.
Like Motley Crue.
Yes.
Connor just said we just put you on a red shirt.
I feel like we need to have a DVD listener fantasy football league this season. I think we should do that.
Huh.
And we could implement one of these punishments.
Okay.
One
Sounds
texter
good.
says a Beatles wig. Like at the height of the Beatles.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I'm proud
I'm
of my
open to it,
I'm
but
proud
not
of my
for a
shaved
month.
head.
No,
Yeah, not for a month.
nobody's
A
going to
day,
sign up for
yes.
a month of
A
that.
day, yes.
Yeah, nobody's gonna sign up for a month of wearing a wig.
Your
No.
wig could be I grow out my hair, shave it, make a wig, give it to you. I did that on Unpractical Jokers once.
That seems like bad case of no.
I don't have lice, I promise.
I can't.
Too creepy. Too creepy.
Craig says loser has to take everyone else out to dinner. They have to pay, but they aren't allowed to eat.
Ooh,
That'd be bad.
harsh.
Do we go upscale or just like a chain?
I think you'd have to go at least like we're not talking like Michelin 5-star restaurant
Nah.
here, but something.
Just a nice place, a good place.
Little Jay Alexander's action.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will take all of you.
We go to a taco spot.
I will
We
take
can
all
go to
of
a taco
you
spot. It
to
don't
a
matter.
restaurant I'm sure Willie Donick frequented in his time at Vanderbilt, the West End Chili's.
It's still there too.
It was
yeah.
right. It's
Specifically
still
that
there.
one.
It's still
It's
enduring.
still there, yes.
I remember when it opened.
Man.
I remember it was brand new.
We
Man,
could get
it's
some
still
real
there.
Italian food at Maggiano's.
Yes.
That is still there.
No, the best food in West End, baby. The West End Chili's. So much has changed over there, but the West End Chili's has endured
Very
all of
consistent.
the changes. Yes.
Everything is changing except the chilies.
One texter says D-Mace would have to have a Go Blue window decal for the next college season.
Heck no.
Yeah,
Never.
do see this on the YouTube line as well.
Never.
They're saying I have to wear Philly stuff or Adam has to wear North Carolina stuff.
Ooh.
Over my dead
See?
body.
He feels the same way.
Would you
Over-
rather wear red or North Carolina stuff?
Over my dead body. North Carolina. Gross. I saw a pair of shoes the other day that was North Carolina themed. It was a pair of Jordans. It had the UNC logo and it was, light blue. I'm like,
Nah.
I wouldn't pee on these if they were on fire. And that'll do it for us today. In case you missed our conversations with Gentry Estes of the Tennessean or Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee, you can hear them now wherever you get your podcast. The Tennessee Titans back on the practice field tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. We will be there. We will bring you all of the analysis. We will be joined by Carnell Tate after practice. You'll hear that interview tomorrow as well. In the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. We will talk to you tomorrow at 3.
Be love on your people. I love you. The team love you. You hear that music. Don't you forget about us because we will not forget about you. Back on these airways talking more Tennessee Titans and camp. And also we will have Carnell Tate on tomorrow. And as I always say, we're going to be talking and
6 coming up next. You're going to be listening.
peace.